Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Myanmar's ambassador to the United Nations has alerted the agency to a reported massacre by the military regime. Kior Motun sent a letter to the UN Secretary General saying 40 bodies had been found in an area of northwestern Myanmar in July. He also alleged that soldiers tortured and killed 16 men in a village. Myanmar has been in turmoil since the army removed the civilian leadership on February the 1st, launching a crackdown on dissent that has killed more than 900 people so far. Israeli fighter jets have launched air raids on neighbouring Lebanon following a second day of rocket fire from across the border. The military said that jets struck the launch sites from which rockets had been fired over the previous day, as well as an additional target used to attack Israel in the past. 3 rockets were fired from Lebanon into Israeli territory on Wednesday, triggering multiple bushfires. The Mexican government has sued several weapons manufacturers in a U.S. court, accusing them of fueling bloodshed through reckless business practices. The lawsuit alleges that the companies knew they were contributing to illegal arms trafficking, which had been linked to many deaths. Officials say Mexico is seeking as much as $10 billion in compensation. A van overloaded with 30 people, many of them believed to be illegal immigrants, has crashed in southern Texas, killing 10 occupants and critically injuring many of the others. U.S. authorities said the vehicle was driving at high speed when it tried to veer off a highway, had hit a metal pole and a stop sign in the city of Encino. The driver and 9 passengers were killed in the impact. The remaining 20 passengers were taken to local hospitals, where some of them were listed in critical condition. The crash took place several miles from the US Border Patrol checkpoint. Australia's Prime Minister has announced a reparations fund for some members of its Indigenous population who were forcibly removed from families.
The ultimate test of our efforts is that every Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander boy or girl can grow up with the same opportunities.
Scott Morrison said that Australia will create a $280 million reparations fund after 800 survivors filed a class action lawsuit against the federal government, covering a period ranging from 1910 to the 1970s. More than 100,000 Aboriginal children were removed from their families and communities during those years. At least 150 houses have been destroyed by a raging fire that surrounded a monastery and a dozen villages on the Greek island of Evia. Huge flames leaping up from the forest could be seen from the sea. Firefighters said it was a difficult blaze to control on an island of rolling hills with little visibility. Meanwhile, firefighters were also continuing to battle a blaze near Athens, with images showing the Pantheon engulfed in smoke. There are currently over 100 active fires burning in the country. Special forces of Russia and Uzbekistan have been conducting drills near the Afghan border amid the worsening situation in the country. Russia said 1,500 Russian and Uzbek troops would take part in the 5-day exercises that began at a military site in Uzbekistan. Security has rapidly deteriorated in Afghanistan as the United States withdraws its troops. Moscow fears that it could destabilize its southern defensive flank and push refugees into its Central Asian backyard. More than 150 lorries carrying humanitarian aid have arrived in Ethiopia's conflict-hit northern Tigray region.
4, 5.
The UN World Food Programme said that while this was great progress, more than 100 lorries are needed every day in order to reach the millions that are in dire need. The agency said that around 400,000 people are living in famine conditions in Tigray, and more than 90% of the population needs emergency food aid. And finally, 3 Tunisian brothers that always loved cars but could not afford one have decided to hand-build their own. The 3 young men live in a rural area east of the capital Tunis, known for its sandy forests and rough terrain, so they created a car that could thrive on narrow and uneven roads. Resembling a buggy, the light green painted vehicle has been a success. The brothers hope to one day start a factory where they can mass produce the vehicle themselves. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to Millicent in Lagos.